The machete trembled in Chike's weathered hands as he stared at the young woman bound to the wooden post. Her eyes, those unmistakable brown eyes flecked with gold, pierced through a decade of prayers and tears. "Amara?" His voice cracked like dried clay under the scorching sun. The woman's head snapped up, blood trickled from her split lip, and her wrapper was torn and muddy from the village mob that had dragged her here, accusing her of witchcraft. But those eyes, those were his daughter's eyes. "Papa?" she whispered, and the words shattered something deep within his chest. The village chief's voice boomed behind him. "Chike, step away from the witch. She has deceived you like she deceived us all." But Chike moved forward, his fishing knife cutting through her bonds with swift precision. As the ropes fell away, Amara collapsed into his arms, and he caught the scent of river clay and wild hibiscus, the same smell that clung to her baby clothes he'd kept for 10 years. "They took me, Papa," she sobbed against his chest. "They took me and I couldn't come home. I tried so hard." Around them, the crowd of angry villagers closed in, their voices rising like a thunderstorm. Chike held his daughter tighter, his body a shield against a world that wanted to destroy her for the second time. "Whatever happens," he whispered fiercely into her matted hair, "I will never lose you again." Hello, guys. Welcome to my African Tales. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and share it with your friends, and most important thing, turn your notification bell so you can get informed when I drop another amazing story. Drop your thoughts and reactions in the comments. What would you do if your spouse tried to kill you and you survive? Will you take a revenge or disappear forever? 10 years earlier, Onitsha Main Market had swallowed Amara whole on a Tuesday afternoon, and Chike had been searching for her ever since. Now, in the bustling marketplace of Nui, Chike moved through the crowd with the practiced desperation of a man who had forgotten how to stop looking. His fishing nets lay unused in his compound. His late wife's relatives whispered that grief had driven him mad. But every Tuesday, he abandoned his nets and traveled to different markets across Anambra State, showing his daughter's faded photograph to anyone who would look. "Have you seen this girl? She would be 18 now. Please, anything you remember?" Most people shook their heads and hurried past. Some offered pitying glances. Others pressed coins into his palm as if he were a beggar, not understanding that money meant nothing when your heart lived in the space where your child used to be. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly as Chike wiped sweat from his brow. He was about to leave when he heard it, a laugh that made his blood run cold and hot at the same time. It was bright and clear, cutting through the market noise like a bell. He turned, and there she was. A young woman stood 3 stalls away, bargaining with a fabric seller. Her head wrap was indigo blue, and her wrapper showed she was from a different village. But her profile, the curve of her jaw, the way she tilted her head when she laughed, it was Adiz, his late wife. It was exactly how Adiz used to stand. Chike's feet moved before his mind could catch up. He pushed through the crowd, his heart hammering against his ribs. The woman was picking up her purchase, preparing to leave. Amara, the name burst from his throat. The woman froze. For one eternal second, she stood perfectly still. Then she turned, and Chike saw her face fully for the first time. Those eyes, golden brown and wide, the same eyes that had looked up at him when she was 8 years old, asking him to buy her sugar cane before she vanished into the crowd. Recognition flashed across her face, followed immediately by something that looked like terror. She dropped her fabric bundle and ran. "Amara, wait!" Chike surged forward, but the market was dense with afternoon shoppers. He crashed into a woman carrying a tower of plastic bowls. They scattered across the ground like colorful rain. Sorry. He didn't stop to help gather them. The young woman was fast, weaving through the stalls with the knowledge of someone who had spent years running. But Chike was a fisherman, and fishermen understood patience and pursuit. He tracked her movements, predicting her turns. She burst out of the market's main section and into the narrow paths between compounds. Chike followed, his lungs burning. She ducked into an alley between 2 buildings, and when he rounded the corner, he found her backed against the wall, chest heaving, eyes wild with fear. "Please," she gasped. "Please don't hurt me." The words struck him like a physical blow. "Hurt you? Amara, it's Papa." It's me." She shook her head violently. "My name is not Amara. You have the wrong person. Your eyes? I know those eyes. I know my daughter." He took a step closer, and she flinched. The movement broke something inside him. "What happened to you? Who took you?" "Baby girl, I've been searching." "I don't know you." Her voice rose to a shrill pitch. "I don't know any Amara. My name is Chinyu, and I'm from Okuzu village." Footsteps echoed in the alley. A tall man appeared behind Chaik, his expression dark and threatening. "Chinyu, is this man bothering you?" "Brother Emeka." "Yes. He keeps calling me strange names." The man called Emeka stepped between them, his bulk blocking Chaik's view of the woman who might be his daughter. "Old man, you need to leave. This is my sister." "You're mistaken." "I'm not mistaken. Her name is Amara Okafor. She disappeared from Onitsha Main Market 10 years ago when she was 8 years old. I'm her father." Something flickered in Emeka's eyes. Understanding. Calculation. Then his face hardened into a mask of anger. "You're harassing my family. Leave now, or I'll call the vigilante group." Before Chaik could respond, Emeka grabbed the woman's arm and pulled her past him, back toward the market. She didn't look back, but Chaik saw her shoulders shaking. He stood alone in the alley, his daughter's name dying on his lips. But one thing was certain now. She was alive. After 10 years of prayers and searching, Amara was alive, and he was going to bring her home. Chaik followed them to Okuzu village, staying far enough behind that they wouldn't notice. The village sat nestled between palm groves and a lazy river that reminded him painfully of home. As dusk painted the sky in shades of purple and orange, he watched Emeka lead the young woman into a large compound surrounded by high mud walls. He found shelter that night in a small roadside bar where truck drivers stopped for palm wine and pepper soup. The owner, a gap-toothed woman named Mama Nkechi, eyed him suspiciously when he asked about the Emeka family. "Why you want to know?" She wiped down the wooden counter with a rag that had seen better days. "I'm looking for someone, a girl who might be living with them." Mama Nkechi's expression shifted to something between pity and fear. She leaned closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. "That family, they are not what they seem. Brother Emeka calls himself a prophet now. He runs a prayer house on the edge of the village." "A prophet?" Chaik's stomach tightened. "Yes. People come from far away for deliverance. But some people who go there..." She trailed off, glancing toward the door, as if afraid someone might be listening. "Some people don't come back the same." That night, Chaik couldn't sleep. He lay on a thin mat in the room Mama Nkechi rented to him, staring at the ceiling and remembering Amara's voice, the way she called him Pop in the market before terror replaced recognition. She knew him. Somewhere beneath the fear, his daughter remembered. At dawn, he walked to the prayer house. It was a large structure made of cement blocks, painted white with a crude red cross above the entrance. A sign declared, "Mountain of Fire Deliverance Ministry. Prophet Emeka speaks God's truth." The compound was already busy with activity. Women swept the yard while men arranged plastic chairs in rows. Chaik approached an elderly man who was opening the gate. "Good morning, sir. I'm looking to speak with Prophet Emeka." The man sized him up. "Prophet is preparing for morning prayers. You can wait inside." The interior was sparse but clean. At the front, a raised platform served as an altar, decorated with candles and a large Bible. Chaik took a seat in the back row as people filed in, their faces showing various shades of desperation. These were people seeking miracles, carrying burdens Chaik recognized because he'd worn the same expression for 10 years. When Emeka entered, he wore a white robe and carried a staff. His presence commanded attention, and the room fell silent. Then Chaik saw her. Amara, no, they called her Chinyu, followed behind in a simple white dress, her eyes downcast. "Brothers and sisters," Emeka's voice boomed, "today we have testimony of God's deliverance." He gestured to Amara, and she stepped forward mechanically. "This young woman came to us 10 years ago, possessed by a water spirit that had stolen her memory and identity. The demon made her forget her true family and filled her head with false memories. But through prayer and fasting, We have kept the demon at bay." Chaik's blood ran cold. The congregation murmured prayers and amens. Amara spoke in a flat, rehearsed voice. "I thank Prophet Emeka for saving me from the spirit that wanted to drag me back to the river. Without him in this prayer house, I would be lost." Their eyes met across the room. For a heartbeat, Chaik saw something break through her blank expression. Fear, pleading, a silent cry for help. Then Emeka's hand landed on her shoulder, and the moment shattered. Her face returned to its empty mask. The service continued, but Chaik heard none of it. His mind raced with understanding. They had taken his daughter and convinced her she was possessed. They had imprisoned her mind with fear and false religion. For 10 years, they had kept her locked away, not with chains, but with lies. After the service, as people crowded around Emeka for prayers and blessings, Chaik slipped outside. He needed to think, to plan. Bursting in and demanding his daughter back would only make things worse. Emeka had the entire village under his influence. He was walking back toward Mama Nkechi's bar when he heard soft footsteps behind him. He turned to find a young boy, no more than 12, looking at him nervously. "You're the man who called her Amara in the market," the boy whispered. Chaik's heart leaped. "Yes. Do you know something?" The boy glanced around fearfully. "Sister Chinyu. She's not the only one. There are others in the prophet's compound. Girls who don't remember their real names. My sister was taken 3 years ago. She's there too." "Where are they kept?" "In the back compound. There's a separate building. Prophet says they're being delivered from demons, but..." The boy's voice cracked. "But my sister cries at night. I can't hear her through the walls. She wants to go home." Chaik knelt to the boy's level. "What's your name, son?" "Obinna." "Obinna, I need your help. Can you show me the compound? Can you help me get inside?" The boy nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Please, sir, save them. Save my sister and save yours." Chaik spent 3 days watching the compound, learning its rhythms. Obinna proved invaluable, sketching maps in the dirt and explaining the daily routines. The back building housed 8 young women, all supposedly possessed and undergoing spiritual deliverance. They were allowed out only for morning and evening prayers, always under watch. Prophet Emeka keeps them weak, Obinna explained as they crouched behind a cassava farm overlooking the compound. Small food portions, long fasting periods. He says it weakens the demons, but really it weakens them. "How do you know all this?" "My cousin works in the kitchen. She feels guilty, but she's too afraid to speak out. Prophet Emeka has connections with the village chief and the police. Anyone who challenges him disappears or gets accused of witchcraft." Witchcraft. The word sent chills down Chaik's spine. He'd heard stories of villages where accusation alone was a death sentence. That evening, Chaik sought help from an unexpected source. At Mama Nkechi's bar, he met Ikenna, a journalist from Lagos who was passing through on assignment. A prophet holding girls captive? Ikenna's eyes lit up with professional interest. That's a major story, but it's also dangerous. These religious compounds are protected. Getting proof is nearly impossible. "I don't need a story published," Chaik said firmly. "I need my daughter back. But if documentation helps, I'll give you whatever you need afterward." Ikenna studied him for a long moment, then nodded. "I have a camera, small enough to hide. If we can get evidence of what's happening in that compound, we can force the authorities to act." The plan came together slowly. Obinna would unlock the back gate after evening prayers when most of the compound guards went to eat. Ikenna would film from the outside, capturing anything suspicious. Chaik would slip inside and find Amara. And then what? Mama Nkechi asked when they told her the plan. She'd become an unexpected ally, her initial suspicion transforming into fierce protectiveness. "You think you can just walk out with her? Emeka will call the whole village." "Then we need a distraction," Chaik said. "Something big enough to draw everyone's attention." Mama Nkechi's eyes gleamed. "My nephew owes me a favor. He has a truck. What if there was an accident? Say, a truck carrying palm nuts that overturned right at the main road junction? Would take hours to clear, and everyone would rush to see and help salvage the goods. It was risky. Every part of the plan was riddled with things that could go wrong. But Chaik had waited 10 years. He wouldn't wait another day. The night they chose was moonless, the darkness thick as wet cloth. The truck accident happened right on schedule. Shouts and commotion erupted from the main road as palm nuts scattered across the intersection. As predicted, people poured out of their compounds to help, to watch, to collect free nuts. Chaik waited in the shadows behind the prayer compound, his heart thundering so loudly he was sure someone would hear it. Obinna appeared like a ghost, beckoning him forward. The back gate creaked open. Inside the compound, oil lamps flickered in the main buildings, but the back structure sat in darkness. Chaik crept forward, Obinna leading him to a heavy wooden door secured with a padlock. "The key," Obinna whispered, producing it from his pocket. "My cousin stole it this afternoon." The lock clicked open with a sound that seemed deafening in the quiet. Chaik pushed the door open and stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Unwashed bodies, sickness, and fear. As his eyes adjusted, he saw them. 8 young women lying on thin mats, barely moving. Some turned to look at him with hollow eyes that held no hope. "Amara?" he whispered urgently. "Amara Okafor?" One figure sat up slowly in the corner. Even in the darkness, he recognized her silhouette. "Papa?" Her voice was small, broken. "Is it really you? Or is this another test?" Chaik's legs nearly gave out. He rushed to her, falling to his knees beside her mat. Up close, he could see how thin she'd become, how her skin stretched over her bones. Rage burned through him like wildfire. "It's me, baby girl. It's really me. We're leaving. Right now." "I can't." Tears streamed down her face. "The prophet said if I try to leave, the water spirit will kill you. He said it's watching, always watching." "There's no water spirit." Chaik gripped her shoulders gently. "There never was. These people stole you. They've been lying to you for 10 years. But I'm here now, and I'm taking you home." A voice cut through the darkness. "You're not taking anyone anywhere." Emeka stood in the doorway, flanked by 3 large men. In the lamplight from outside, his face was twisted with fury. "Guards," he bellowed. "We have a kidnapper. A thief trying to steal our sister from God's deliverance." Chaik stood, placing himself between Emeka and Amara. Behind him, he heard movement as the other captive women stirred, hope flickering to life in the darkness. "You're the kidnapper," Chaik said, his voice steady despite his fear. "You're the thief. And tonight your lies end." The confrontation should have ended there, with Chaik overpowered and beaten. But Emeka hadn't counted on 2 things: Obinna's courage and the power of mothers. As the guards moved toward Chaik, Obinna's voice rang out from behind Emeka. "He's telling the truth. My sister is in there. She's been crying for 3 years to go home." More voices joined in. Obinna's mother burst into the compound, followed by Mom and Ketchy, and a growing crowd drawn not by the truck accident, but by whispers that spread like wildfire through the village. Whispers that someone was finally challenging the prophet. "My daughter," Obinna's mother screamed. "Where's my Kayamika?" Another woman pushed forward. "And my niece, Adora. She's been here 2 years." The crowd swelled. Parents, relatives, people who had lost girls to the prophet's deliverance ministry found their voices in that moment. Years of fear cracked open and rage poured out. Emeka's face went pale. He raised his hands. "You don't understand. These women were possessed. I saved them from drowning, from madness, from death itself. Show us." Mama and Ketchy demanded. "If they're being saved, why are they locked away? Why can't they speak to their families?" "The demons?" "Enough about demons." Chaik roared. His voice carried the weight of 10 years of grief and fury. "Tell them the truth. Tell them how you steal girls from markets and villages, how you break their minds with starvation and isolation until they forget who they are." Ikenna appeared at the edge of the crowd, his small camera visible in his hands. "I've been recording everything," he announced loudly. "Every word. And I've already sent footage to my editor in Lagos. By morning, this will be on every news station in Nigeria." The crowd surged forward. Emeka's guards backed away. unwilling to fight against a mob of desperate parents. Emeka himself stumbled backward as people rushed into the building. The scene that followed would haunt Chike forever. Mothers finding daughters who didn't recognize them. Fathers weeping over girls who'd forgotten their own names. The 8 young women emerged into the lamplight like spirits, blinking and confused, some sobbing, others catatonic from years of psychological torture. Amara clung to Chike, trembling. The water spirit. He said it would kill you. There's no spirit, baby. There never was. Do you remember the market? The day you got lost? Her face crumpled. I got separated from you. There was a crowd and I was scared. A woman, she said she'd help me find you. She bought me Accra and told me to follow her to where you were waiting. But you weren't there. There was a man instead, and he... Her voice broke. Chike held her tighter as the memories flooded back. He put something over my face. A cloth that smelled strange. When I woke up, I was here. They told me I'd been possessed by a demon, that my memories were lies the demon planted. They said if I tried to leave or tell anyone, the demon would kill my family. So I forgot. I tried so hard to forget everything, because forgetting meant you'd be safe. Oh, my daughter. Chike rocked her like he had when she was small. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't find you sooner. The village chief arrived with local police, though their presence was more formality than enforcement. The crowd's fury had already sealed Emeka's fate. He was dragged away, still proclaiming his innocence, insisting he'd save these girls from spiritual death. But the woman who'd helped kidnap Amara, Emeka's own wife, broke down and confessed everything. They'd been trafficking girls for years, selling some to labor camps, keeping others in the compound to attract donations from believers who pay for their deliverance. The cruelty was systematic, calculated, profitable. As dawn broke over Okuzu village, 8 families were reunited with their daughters. Obinna held his sister Kayamika as she cried, finally believing she was free. Other girls stood silent, their minds still trapped in the lies they'd been fed, requiring patience and professional help to heal. Chike watched Amara as she sat wrapped in Mama Nkechi's best wrapper, slowly eating jollof rice. She ate tentatively, as if afraid the food would be snatched away. Every few minutes, her eyes would dart to him, checking that he was still there. "Papa," she said softly. "Yes, baby? Can we go home now? To our real home? Will Mama be there?" Chike's heart broke again. She didn't know. She'd missed her own mother's funeral. Mama is with the ancestors now. Amara, she died 6 years ago. But she never stopped hoping we'd find you. And yes, we're going home. Together. I promise you, we're never going to be separated again. Amara nodded slowly, processing this new grief layered on top of so much trauma. But she reached for his hand and held it tight. For the first time in 10 years, Chike felt whole. The journey back to Onitsha took 3 days, but it felt like traveling between 2 different worlds. Chike moved slowly, allowing Amara to set the pace. She startled at loud noises, flinched when strangers approached, and sometimes stared at him with confusion, as if her brain couldn't reconcile the father she'd forgotten with the father she was remembering. Ikenna accompanied them, documenting their story. This needs to be told, he insisted, not just about Emeka, but about all the profit compounds across Nigeria. People need to know. At night, when they stopped at roadside inns, Amara would wake screaming from nightmares. Chike would hold her and sing the lullabies the Dees used to sing, the ones he thought he'd forgotten until his daughter needed them again. The water spirit song, Amara whispered one night. Mama used to sing it. Yes, your mama loved that song. You remember her? Pieces, like broken glass. When you sing, the pieces come together. She paused. Tell me about her. Tell me everything. So Chike told her. About a Dee's laugh that could light up a room. About how she died from malaria, heartbroken, and still hoping her daughter would walk to the door. About the funeral where he'd saved a seat for Amara, just in case. About the 10 years of searching, never giving up, always believing. I'm sorry, Papa. Amara wept. I'm sorry I forgot you. I'm sorry I didn't try harder to escape. No. Chike lifted her chin. You survived. That's all that matters. You survived and you're here now. Everything else will heal together. When they finally reached Onitsha, the entire community came out to meet them. The story had preceded them, spread by phone calls and radio broadcasts. Chaik's neighbors, his fellow fishermen, his late wife's family, they all gathered to witness the miracle of Amara's return. But the celebration was bittersweet. Amara stood overwhelmed by the crowd, unable to recognize faces that should have been familiar. An elderly woman approached, crying, "Amara, do you remember me? I'm your Aunt Neoma. I used to braid your hair." Amara stared blankly, then buried her face against Chaik's shoulder. The crowd's joy dimmed with understanding. Their Amara had returned, but she wasn't the same girl who'd left. 10 years of trauma had rewritten her, and nobody knew yet who she would become. The weeks that followed were harder than Chaik had anticipated. Amara couldn't sleep alone, terrified that she'd wake up back in the compound. She couldn't eat without permission. She flinched when people raised their voices, even in laughter. Simple decisions paralyzed her, years of having no choices leaving her unable to choose anything for herself. Chaik used his savings and donations from the community to take her to a therapist in Enugu, a kind woman named Dr. Adiku, who specialized in trauma. "She'll need time," Dr. Adiku explained after their first session. What she experienced wasn't just captivity. It was systematic psychological destruction. Rebuilding her sense of self will take years, not months. But there were good days, too. The day Amara laughed at something funny on the radio, then looked surprised at her own laughter. The day she went to market with Chaik and didn't panic. The day she asked to visit her mother's grave. They stood together at Adi's resting place, Amara tracing her fingers over the carved name on the simple headstone. "I wish I could have said goodbye," she whispered. "You can say it now. She can hear you." Amara knelt in the red dirt. "Mama, I'm sorry I was gone so long. Papa found me, just like you always believed he would. I'll try to be the daughter you remembered. I'll try to heal and make you proud. Thank you for teaching me the water spirit song. It helped me remember who I am." Chaik watched his daughter pray, and for the first time since Adi's death, he felt his wife's presence as more than just grief. He felt her satisfaction, her peace. They'd kept their promise. They'd brought their daughter home. 6 months after the rescue, Ikenna's documentary aired nationally. It exposed not just Emeka's compound, but a network of similar operations across Nigeria. The outcry led to government investigations, raids, and the liberation of hundreds of captive women and girls. Emeka and his wife received 20-year sentences for trafficking and abuse. Amara watched the documentary with Chaik, her hand tight in his. When it ended, she turned to him with tears streaming down her face. "Papa?" "Yes, baby?" "Thank you for never stopping. Thank you for finding me when I couldn't find myself." Chaik pulled her close, this daughter who was lost and found, broken and healing. "You're my child, Amara. I would have searched until my last breath. That's what fathers do. That's what love does." Outside, the evening sun painted the Niger River in shades of gold. Fishermen's boats dotted the water, their nets cast wide, hopeful for the catch. Chaik had left his nets idle for 10 years, but tomorrow, he thought, maybe tomorrow he'd fish again. Not because he needed to, but because he could, because his daughter was home, and life could finally, slowly, begin again. The water spirit song drifted through the open window, Amara humming it softly as she helped prepare dinner. The sound was healing incarnate, a bridge between past and future, between pain and hope. And in that moment, in that simple evening melody, Chaik understood that some things, once broken, could indeed be made whole again. Not the same as before, but whole nonetheless. Different, scarred, but alive. And that was enough. That was everything.